going, man?
What's up, buddy? What's up? Going well. I want to share some new updates with you guys on the Google Meets. So I'm going to share my screen, and we
Kyle,
will
as you share
bust
your
on
screen, I'm
over
going to
there.
switch over from Wi-Fi really quickly because I forgot to do that. So,
Okay.
okay. Hopefully,
And
everybody's
all
still
right.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right.
You guys seeing the Google Classroom screen here?
We
Yes,
sure
sir.
are.
Perfect. All right. So as you can see right now, the in my Google my uh, pretend Google Classroom here, my tester, the link is set to not visible for students. So we advise that you keep this link not visible for students up until a few minutes prior to the meeting beginning. You can go up here to the settings cogwheel and then scroll on down, and we would want to, here it is. Also, you can reset this. Russ, you chime in if you think I'm wrong, but I would recommend resetting that pretty regularly as well.
Yeah, so this is going to be the best way to keep your Meet secure. So when you reset that link, it makes your old link dead, so the kids can't get in there if they've got the old link. You just got a brand new link, and if you reset it and then you hide it, you make it invisible to students, then they can't even see your new link until you make it visible. So it's just going to be the best way to keep your Google Meet secure is to reset that Google Meet link after each use.
Absolutely. Don't forget to turn it to visible just prior to the beginning of the session so the students can see that. And then you save. Now, what I'm going to do is hop into this as the teacher real quick and show you what you need to do. So there's some new features that they released, which they call the knock or the lobby now, which you're probably well aware of at this point. But just to make sure, let me start from the beginning here. If you want to access these documents, by the way, visit the jcps.me/NTI website. You can scroll down to the core digital tools, and we have two core synchronous instructional digital tools, one of which, of course, is Microsoft Teams, which we continue to work with. I think they've got a meeting with them this morning at 10 for new updates for next week. And then, of course, Google Meet. So we've got resource lists for both tools listed here. The sheet that I was just on, the resource list, is this one. They've published this. This was brief, just kind of an overview of the new features that kind of put it back in the running, where you had the lobby and some other features we'll discuss here shortly. Then you also have the tips to keep your Meet session secure. And so we continue to work to update this also. And you'll see that it also references the lobby and knock feature now. And all the way down, if you keep going, there's even guidance on recording still that is available to you if you have questions or need resources for that. So just want to make sure you knew what these were, where they were, before we dig in any further here. So I'm going to hop in and open this up now. Okay, so I'm going to be the teacher and I'm ready for class. I'm going to click on my link and open this up. And when I do that, it's going to, in theory, anybody then that once I join completely has the link, it'll work like it always has. They can hop right in. So if I join now.
So Kyle, jump in here. The great thing about having your Meet based in Google Classroom is the kids just know to go to Google Classroom and look in the header and click that link every time. So it's just running everything through Google Classroom is a great idea because it makes it easy, a one-stop shop for your kids. They go to Google Classroom, they look in the header, they click on the link, and they're in your Meet.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's certainly the recommended method, not the only, but especially when you think about, K-5, and it really simplifies things. So with as a parent of a first grader now in JCPS, I see firsthand, and it's really great that I get to view through that lens. So good point, Russ. So I now am in the meeting, and if I were to be a student that had that, I will show you. I'm going to. This is actually a student account here. This is my daughter. I could go ahead and hop in just like I had been able to in the past with these if I needed or wanted to. Minimize that. Turn this off. It's around here somewhere.
So Kyle, one of the
Here we
important things for our teachers to know is that they need to get these they need to be in their meetings early. That way they can set these settings before their students get in, right?
Yes, yes. And if you see, now I have joined the meeting as a student, and you're like, wait a minute, it didn't, I know you couldn't see my screen, but it didn't ask me to admit them as a teacher. It didn't do any of that. And the reason that it didn't do any of that is because as the teacher, I didn't turn off the quick access feature. And I know it seems a little backwards, but Google Meet as a whole, they're working kind of backwards to fit it into the EDU space for us. And so one of the features that they've added is that lobby feature. So let me remove this student. Let me leave as the student. I'll show you removing in a moment. And one of the differences there. Okay, so now let's just say that I wanted to start this the 5 minutes before. I'm the teacher, everything's cool. As soon as I get in, the first thing that I need to do is I need to head over here to my settings, and I need to access the host controls, and I need to turn off quick access. I've got to turn quick access off. You may also turn these other features off if you want to, and let's look at those briefly. So you've got to share their screen, so you could allow the students to share their screen if you wanted to do that. And you can turn these on or off while you're in the meet as well. And there's an option on the student. Or you can turn the chat on or off. Okay, so when you turn the chat off, it turns it off for the students, but not you. So you could still type to the class, send them links, share, et cetera, but they would not be able to type amongst themselves. And so
just to contrast here, Kyle, one of the things with Microsoft Teams is we cannot turn on and off that chat. We've had people request that, but we do not have that ability to turn on and off the chat in Microsoft Teams. But in Google Meet, you do have that ability to turn on and off that chat. So
absolutely.
And Kyle, one of the other things that we recommend is the settings that you were just showing. That has to be done every single time that you go into a meet.
Yes.
So it's not what we're calling sticking. Those settings don't stay once you do it. Every time it has to be done.
That's a good point, Jack, because the first day they had these features, my wife is a speech language pathologist, and she probably gets in her meet probably 10 to 12 times a day. And she was telling me, I have to do this every time. And I thought that was not true, but it is absolutely true. Every time you get in that meet, you need to go there and turn those features, toggle those features.
Yeah,
and that's not just for changing the link either. So Russ mentioned that his wife is in the same one. And when we showed you earlier in Google Classroom that you could change this, it doesn't matter if you leave it the same. You still have to enact those settings every time you rejoin as the teacher, as the first one in. So don't forget that. That's key. Let's see here. So now we've got the settings together in this meet. I'm the teacher. I've entered in this scenario. Okay, so now I'm going to join as the student, and we'll see what it says up here on this screen for us. So,
and Kyle, while you are pulling that up, if I could point out now, if I was a teacher, the safest way to do it is I would actually go and do those settings, then make it visible in my Google Classroom. That way, no kids are joining before you get those settings set. So I would do the settings, then make it visible. Then everybody can join and you're all good to go.
And on top of that, I'd like to add also that we had a couple people asking about co-teachers, other people coming in and getting access to those controls. If you don't take the controls first as the teacher, a co-teacher that comes in that you've allowed to join, they can take those controls from you, and then they have them for the duration. So make sure you get them first.
Yeah, so that's good and bad. So, in Microsoft Teams, it's the organizer that gets those controls, and you can give some of them away. But in Meets, it's the first teacher account that accesses it, whether they created it or not. So that might be good for your scenario. You might want to set this up and then have a co-teacher or somebody hop in on your behalf or for you or with you, whatever first. But you might not. So depending on the tool you're using, there's different benefits to those. And as you see here, it says this is now a rendition of that knock feature. I don't know if you can see my other screen. Let me drag that over here. So from the student perspective, it's saying, hey, we're waiting for them to admit you. And then on the teacher side, you see here, it's like, hey, this person's trying to come on in. So let me admit this student. So I've admitted the student now. And let's say the student has walked away from the machine and I'm trying to end the meet, or any multitude of things, I may need to eject the student from the meeting or remove the participant. So I'm going to go up here to my participants list, and I'm going to look at people, and then I will go to the student and I will remove from the meeting. Okay, so I'm like, all right, back to class, or let's go ahead and end the meeting, whatever it is. And you'll see that on the student side it says you've been removed. And if I try to rejoin that meeting now as the student, it should pop up and tell me that I've been removed. Yes, it says you can't join this video call. Now, let's say that was either by mistake, or you did that and you had to talk with the parents and the administrators, and you want to let them back in. If you don't do anything, the student won't be allowed back in, even to ask to join again, until approximately 24 hours was what our testing found. So they can't continue to try to hop back into the lobby, even though they can't get all the way into the meeting. They can't continue to get back in the lobby if they're removed. So what you can do, however, we found, is if you wanted to add them back, you can go right here to add people, and you can type the email in. When you get the email address typed in, it's going to send them an email. Now, I don't know if you guys, even on my team, had made this connection just yet. I did earlier this morning. So they don't have to go into their email to be able to get back in or request access to your meet. Once you've sent that, it's kind of like whitelisted their username again for them to attempt to join. So I'll show you the difference. So now that link has been sent to the email, and I never went to the email, I'm just trying to get back into the meet. It will pop up and it will allow me to request entry again to that lobby. So that's pretty cool. So again, if it was a mistake or whatever the case was, whenever you ejected the student and you need them to be able to get back in sooner than the 24-hour kind of cool off period, you can do it this way.
Hey, Kyle, we have a question in the chat that brings up a really good point. It's asking you the question. It's like Michelle Schiedler says, you probably have already touched on this, but all that are trying to join my meets say outside Jefferson County. Is there something to correct this?
Yeah, we've been in touch with Google about that to try to get a resolution. As of now, the guidance I recall, guys, and team, hop in here if you have other advice, but was that to steer away from anything that specifically said guest. I can tell you that initially my daughter's account was popping up the same way, even though she's obviously within. So have you guys heard anything other than just managing that as you admit them and removing them if need be?
I don't think so. I think we just said just double check your roster and admit them, and if they happen to be an imposter, then give them the ban hammer,
Right. Eject them that way. So they do know that that's a feature that we would like, is some better distinction, I'd say. And we're still digging to see on which end that is, but we'll work to get that taken care of. And between now and then, yes, be very diligent and adamant about your own roster. And if by chance something does pop up like that, now the beauty is you can remove, and they got to wait in that lobby, so you just don't let them back in. But very valid concern, and we've seen that as well in our testing. So you can see here that you can go into the host controls from here, kind of the short version. You can view all host settings. This is all live within the meeting, so these things you can enact while you're kind of on the fly if you need to change something. But I should be able to present as the student here, unless I turn that on. Actually, I've got that turned off, I believe. Let me see here. Host controls. Turn that back on. Share their screen. Okay, so I could toggle that on if there's a point in the lesson and I need them to. I could toggle that on, and then they could, in fact, present their screen, and I could take that control away when I needed to do so. Same with the chat messages. So this is their ability to send chat messages, not yours. You can send them at any point in time. So that's kind of neat as well. What else we got, team?
Could you go through the 3 different spots where you can find those settings one more time, Kyle? Just to kind of have them all listed out for us.
Yeah, the within Meet or the documents, man?
Within Meet would be great.
Okay, gotcha. So the host controls, you'll see this little blue shield with a lock on it. This is one method that you can use to access the host controls, and that should pop them up for me here shortly. Yep. So this is what those are here. So you've got share the screen, send chat messages, quick access. So by default, quick access is on. Quick access is what you might believe it to be. That's when people can just hop right in with a link, right? Well, we don't always want that in our settings, so we highly recommend to keep your meet secure that you turn quick access off. Also, the sharing of the screen and the sending of the chat messages, you can toggle those at your discretion, but don't forget they exist. And I think by default, everything is on. So they can chat, they can share their screen, and they can pop right in. So you have to go in every time you open a Teams meeting and affect these settings for them to work. So that's one method. You've got the 3 dots down here, the snowmen. You can get into your settings that way. And you can go to host controls. And then those are the options there. Or again, up here in the actual dashboard, you had the host controls right there as well. So those are the 3 methods that you can use to change those.
So a teacher could be doing instruction, and then when she's ready for the students to participate, she can go ahead and turn that chat control on, correct?
Correct, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We've also had some reports, Danielle talked about it last week, where we had some extensions that, I say we were some high-flying Purple Cow teachers that were, ahead of the game with the extensions that they had for like raising hands and all kinds of different things in Google Meet. And it was really cool. Well, suddenly they rolled out this feature and it started crashing everything. The reason it was crashing everything is they kind of early released or beta released these features to us, and those developers that create all of those extensions aren't affiliated with Google. And since they didn't have access to the beta version, they couldn't update their extension. Long story short, it was causing conflict and you guys were having issue accessing the controls. So if you're having an issue accessing your controls on this new feature, you want to go up here to the puzzle piece and look for anything related to your Google Meet that you may have installed and disable it. Or you may go into your extensions this way as well. And you may turn things off from that. So a few different ways, a few different things to look for, but you can get in and check those settings and turn things off. Additionally, I think we had some questions coming our way this past week about the ability to use software and what is and isn't approved. Don't forget, guys, if you visit jcpf.me/software, you can see live lists of everything that is either pending approval, approved, and if you sign in, you can actually get a little bit more info. So if you do a search through this site, you can go through and see by content area, its use, whether or not it's approved. So ABC, yeah, let's look at that. Okay. So there you go. So IT says that this is not approved, and it tells you why. And that's what's going on there. So that means you can't purchase this, you can't use this. If you find one that's not on here and you're like, oh yeah, this is a great tool, all my teachers love it, I really want to get this pushed out to Chromebooks, or I want to have the kids create a login for it and tie it to Clever, whatever it is, you can request that right here. And this is where you'll go through the steps to make that request, and then it will get reviewed by IT and so a few other departments before you'll be either allowed to use or purchase it. So.
And that's good info to have, Kyle, because it's so important to make sure that our student data is being kept secure and safe, and we want to make sure that the companies that have access to that data treat it in the same way that we would as well. So,
absolutely. Quick recap. Make sure if you want to visit any of these documents that we referenced here, the new feature updates for Google Meet, or the more comprehensive tips to keep your Google Meet secure with recording guidance and some links to some videos and different things, you want to visit jcps.me/NTI. And then if you'll head to the teacher toolkit and then on down here to the 2.0 core digital tools, you can see those here under Microsoft Teams and Google Meet. So any other questions out there, Matt?
I don't see any other questions. Just some updates on Microsoft Teams. Like Kathleen said, we do have a meeting with them. I believe it's at 1 o'clock today instead of 10 o'clock, though, Kathleen. But we know breakout rooms are there. We also know they're incredibly glitchy. So we're gonna ask some questions about that. Like, that's more like an alpha feature. It's not even in beta yet, really. Like, we're probably some of the first people to really test that hard. So you're probably gonna experience some issues there. But if you have good experiences with breakout rooms, please try to take some pictures or some screen grabs or something. Send them to us. Give us your feedback. We love to hear about how the stuff is working properly, as well as hearing how it's not working properly. And then additionally, what other problems with Teams have we had lately? I had it on the tip of my tongue and I forgot. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Matt, what your breakout rooms, what device are teachers using to get those?
So, as far as I know, we've only seen breakout rooms available on the Mac app and the PC app.
Okay.
So, and that is only if they've gone through and enabled those new features. So if they're on the Mac or the PC app and they go to their settings, which would be their little like initials or picture at the top, and they go down to settings, and it should be right there, one of the first ones they see that says enable new Teams meetings features. They'll just have to reset their app, so close it out and open it back up, and they'll have access to the gallery view of 49 people, the together mode where it looks like the stadium seating or in an auditorium, and they'll also have access to the breakout rooms as well.
Something I did want to, so kind of two things on that. Also, don't forget you can turn off incoming video in Teams if you would like to save bandwidth. So if you advise your students to do the same if they're having internet connectivity issues, or you. But in the Google Meets update, so I wanted to make sure you guys remember that now if your students lose connection in Meets, they can pop right back in. Which is a nice feature. So if you remove them, they have to go. Well, if you remove them, you have to add them back. And the first time they join, they have to enter the lobby. But if they just for some reason lose internet connection and need to hop back in, as long as it's the same account they were under, they'll hop right back in, which is nice. It's less disruption for you, less to manage. So
yeah, they don't have to wait for the lobby, which was one of those issues. If you have a teacher who already starts presenting their lesson and then a kid loses connection, they're not waiting in that lobby. If they've been admitted once, they're good for that session.
Right.
Unless they get kicked out.
Correct.
Correct.
And also they kept the feature, if you had a guest author or someone from the community, I think career and community academies of Louisville with the high schools, if you have people that you want to allow in to present to your students, you can. It's again, you've got to be cautious with your roster if you're not expecting them. So that's another good flexible feature. If you remember back in NTI 1.0, that was a feature that was requested, and now that's available to you. So.
And we really want to give a huge shout out to Microsoft and Google because we talk a lot about being digitally agile, but they have been agile digitally. Because they have worked really, really quickly to get these updates rolled out for us. It was 2 weeks between Meets being a total disaster and being up to par. So that's some awesome programming speed on their end to really make it a better user experience for us and our students. So.
I wanted to go back. I'm sorry, Kyle. I wanted to go back and talk about the extensions. You said in order to get these features to work, teachers might need to go in and turn off or remove some of those Google extensions. After you do that, if you want to maybe one by one try some of those extensions again, I have heard that you can actually, once you do it, you might be able to maybe put on your attendance extension and get that to work with it again. But just to make sure, I think Google Meet Plus was one of the big ones that kept it from working right.
And Kyle, do you mind to go ahead and show them how to remove extensions?
Yeah.
And while you're pulling that up, I don't think a lot of people realize that Google extensions are not made by Google. They're made from outside companies. So sometimes you might want to read about the ratings and read about, make sure that what you're putting on your computer is safe and works well. So they're not just all safe things from Google. There's a lot of other companies putting extensions up there.
And not so companies, sometimes it's just a guy in his basement. So, which it might work, beautifully. But again, a lot of things to consider. So to Elaine's point, if you click on the snowman up in the top right-hand corner of your browser, hopefully you guys can see my screen there. Mm-hmm. If you go down to more tools and extensions, this is the most thorough way I found. Danielle's right. She did show us that there's the puzzle piece for quick access as well. but I have found sometimes I get some that aren't visible to me there. So if you're still having an issue, dig a little deeper if you head to your extensions right here. And hopefully that Ariana Grande extension that I had downloaded not on here anymore. That'd be embarrassing.
Now, what does that do? Does that give you the ponytail, or what does the Ariana Grande extension do?
Yeah, that's the ponytail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's see here. So if I go to the ad blocker. Thank you for asking more detail about that, man.
I had to know. I mean,
inquiring minds. All right, so you can either remove or disable them here from your extensions screen. So, Elaine, is that what you were wanting me to go over with them?
And is it best practice for them to remove them or just disable them? What is our best practice there?
I think you should be able to just disable them unless you guys have other guidance. But I'll tell you another thing that happens a lot is we'll get all walks of folk, AICs, admin, and they'll say, I keep getting these pop-ups over here, teachers. I don't know what's popping up on me over here. It's, underwear advertisements or something embarrassing, something silly, and it's a disruption. So oftentimes I found that the extensions that they have installed, if they'll go through, sometimes they're kind of sneaky. You don't realize you're clicking them. And that will produce those sometimes inopportune advertisements that can cause a disruption. So you may want to check for that as well.
Do you think it's the Ariana Grande extension that's giving those pop-ups, or is it probably something different?
Typically, that's what I found it to be.
Okay.
But I love my girl. What are you gonna do? Let me see here. So those are the big features, big feature sets that I can think. I think we hit everything on this one.
I think we did. Yeah.
So.
We actually have a question. Chelsea Haynes asked, did you go over how to readmit a student after you have kicked them out? We did, Chelsea, but we're happy. We got a couple minutes left, and I'm sure Kyle can show you that again.
Okay, so if you are here and you need to remove someone, you would go over and remove, just like normal, right? But if you want to get them back in, this is where you go to get them back in before the 24-hour, kind of timeout period. Go to add people and then type their name in here. It's going to tell you it sent them an email, and it will, but it is not, they do not have to access their email to get back in. As soon as that invite is sent, it is allowed access for their account again, and they can immediately attempt to rejoin. So I hope that made sense to you there, but that's the long and short of that. And then the student would be allowed back in at that time.